Good morning and welcome to the Mr. Maple Show. We're here at the open house going around, and one of our good friends and buddies, Richard Bomar's here. So we're going to bring you his top 5 Japanese maples. Make sure to smash that like button, subscribe to our YouTube channel, and make sure you sign up for our weekly emails on MrMaple.com. We add at least 10 new trees every Tuesday at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Richard, how long have you been growing Japanese maples?
Since the early 90s, I believe.
That is pretty spectacular. And you have been part of the Maple Society for how many years? When did you start in with the Maple Society?
A few years after I found my first maples in the Atlanta area where I was living at the time.
And you made a trip to Japan with the Maple Society?
Yes.
We met Richard at a Maple Society meeting, our very first Maple Society meeting, and we heard him talking about Dell Laux Nursery, the people that introduced Lillian's Jewel, Lemon Lime Lace, Benny Hoshi, and he came up, put the phone number and name on a piece of paper, and slid it up very quietly to us and said, "Hey guys, you need to check these guys out." I mean, Richard and us, we've been friends ever since. I think we saw you at Green and Grow, and then next thing you know,
Trips.
We've been our travel buddy when it was time to travel to go to Oregon. If we were going on a trip to New Jersey to Ed Shin's, we were stopping at every nursery along the way, seeing where we could find Japanese maples. And Richard was our right-hand man, you and Mike Wilson, trying to go around and find cool, interesting plants, new cultivars, interesting seedlings, you name it. We've been traveling around checking out Japanese maples together for a really long time. Mr. Maple wouldn't be where it is today if it wasn't for this man right here, Richard Bomar. He's been an encourager this whole time. He gave us a huge collection of plants to really propagate on and shared his knowledge with the plants with us drastically. So Richard's meant a lot to us and helped us out all along the way ever since we were, your backyard nursery with no employees trying to survive in our parents' basement. So Richard, I just want to tell you thanks so much. And if you're ever visiting Hillstone Arboretum, we have the Richard Bomar conifer collection, and he's got a lot of his Japanese maples that he donated there and many conifers there as well. So you have to check that out on our Memorial Day open house garden tours.
I think, Tim, I should say just in appreciation of that this man knows so much about plants. He loves to share his information with you. He has new things that he's working on to try to help the customer have plants that live. I killed so many plants when I first started growing plants by not watering correctly, by having the plant in the wrong place, and they've learned and they've shared that information more than anybody that I know in the industry. So thanks for being a friend and also being such a good host and sharing this information every week. You would never find this in a book. And a lot of people, when they have good information, a lot of times they don't like to share it, but Tim and Matt are just incredible at doing that. I think that's why they have so many customers.
I want you to look at his hat. You see this Nichols Nursery hat? This was the original Mr. Maple merch here. He's got it long before when Matt and I were doing garden shows. We had these Mr. Maple hats, and Richard got one because he was helping us out so much. That's the original Mr. Maple hat there, the red Nichols Nursery with stickered on Nichols Nursery. I thought it was great seeing you wearing that today. So Richard, we're going to get into your top 5 Japanese maples. You've been growing Japanese maples for a long time. You're crazy about Japanese maples, conifers, and a lot of other cool plants. I'd consider you one of the more knowledgeable collectors that I've met before on Japanese maples. We're getting in to Richard Bomar's top 5 Japanese maples. So we're at number 5.
Radiant.
What do you like about Radiant?
Just the multiple colors, the fact that the leaves grow all the way down the trunk. The colorations are always different. They come out and they change, and then they go through the fall coloration change. And it's grown by a local guy that's out of Georgia, and we know him, and he's a great plantsman too, like yourself.
Oh yeah.
So it's a really good coloration. I'll say my top 5 doesn't necessarily mean those are the top 5 for everybody. Everybody has different loves of shapes, of colors, of the metamorphosis of coloration change from spring to fall. So I just suggest these. Some of them are really
Like radiant, you like that pink.
yeah.
That's what you're talking about with the coloration, right?
Yeah.
That like sort of sand dusting.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, to me, that's...
Plus the trunk color is a reddish color, so it changes to get darker as the color. I mean, as the temperature changes during the year, so it's a good selection. I think it grows in the South, which is kind of your mark on resistant plants. If they can survive in the South, they're going to survive most anywhere.
Yeah, I mean, radiant, it gives you some amazing colors. The spring color on it is almost unmatched on many other Japanese maples. You get the pink, you get the white, you get a little bit of that Reno Nishiki kind of swirl, but then you get that sand dusting on top of it. So that color is, it's pretty spectacular. I mean, I use that word a lot: spectacular, outrageous, amazing, unique, and special. But that one really is one that stands out from all the other Japanese maples. It really has a unique variegation. It's kind of cool. That's one of your good variegated plants on this list. Now to Richard Bomar's number 4 Japanese maple.
Jerry Schwartz. The coloration changes during the year, the shape of the plant. It's more of an upright plant, probably getting to this size. That's what I know. I'm sure people that have grown it longer, it could probably be even bigger, but the color changes during the year. It's very unique, and we've both met Billy Schwartz, who Jerry Schwartz's daughter. So it's a good plant. I don't remember, how was it found?
It was found as a witch's broom, dense compact. He found it, I believe it was actually in New York, and he actually told me once that thing was seeding, but he went back later and the broom had died. So I was like, really, it was seeding? Let's collect some seed. 50% of them would have that broom characteristic too. I got real excited about it. Mr. Maple got into Jerry Schwartz because of Richard Bomar. He said, guys, you've got to look at the color on this tree. In fact, one of our photos used on MrMaple.com is a photo you took of Jerry Schwartz. The spring color is like a bronze pink.
Yes.
That is different than any of the other bronze colors, different than any of the other pinks. It's a unique pastel that is just special, and the shape is very dense and columnar. People don't talk about Jerry Schwartz as being a columnar plant because it's so dwarf, but it is a very more columnar growing tree. And for me, for a dense, compact, upright, Jerry Schwartz is really spectacular. It's special into itself because there's nothing else quite like it.
When it first comes out, that kind of pastel or pink color, and sun's behind it, it's a nice looking plant. I mean, I like plants that gets people attention because I think everybody should have plants.
Why not, right? And Jerry Schwartz does that in that spectacular way with those pastel pinks. Narrow, dense habit. Fairly easy for many people to grow. Great container plant. Found by the king of witches brooms, Mr. Billy Schwartz. You should go check out our podcast with him, the Billy Schwartz Experience. You won't regret listening to that podcast. It's crazy. He goes in and talks even about Muhammad Ali throwing the fight with Frazier because he was Muhammad Ali's lawyer when those fights were arranged. Guys, that's just a crazy plant, and Billy Schwartz introduced many cool witches brooms.
Yes, most definitely.
All right, we're to Richard Bomar's number 3 Japanese maple.
Acer Bergerianum Minno Yatsubusa. And it's one that I bought early. I think one of the earliest plants that I bought. I moved it when I moved from Atlanta to South Carolina. The coloration changes a little bit, but it's more about the bark on the trunk is just like a lot of trees that you want to have. You see that highlighted, then the new color when it comes out, when it finally leaves out. And I've gotten one, like I said, I have it since 93, and it's pretty large. It's a beautiful plant. A lot of people ask me what it is. So it's a good way to start a conversation. It's just a different plant.
I fell in love with Minno Yatsubusa in your yard. I mean, you had a specimen even back, 10, 12 years ago, your Mino Yatabusa was giant, had this amazing shape to it, this sort of dense, kind of unique shape with that. But it's almost like a lace leaf version of a trident maple. I mean, it's got that bronze hue on top of it, but it's that elongated, thin leaf on it is unique to only Mino Yatabusa of any of the trident maples. There's not another trident maple that has a leaf anything even close to Mino Yatabusa.
This is definitely a different plant. Bajirianum has some interesting plant cultivars, and they pretty much have every one that's out there and, being made for the nursery industry, propagated.
Now, the thing that's underrated on Mino Yatabusa, because we talk about its leaf, we talk about its shape, we even talk about how great of a bark it has because of that trident maple bark. As it ages, it's pretty spectacular. But the fall color on Mino Yatabusa can be yellows infused with orange reds. I mean, for a fall color trident maple, I've got some exquisite fall color shots on Mino Yatabusa that are just killer. So that's a really good number 3. I like your top 5. You got a lot of unique trees that a lot of our Maple Mafia that follow us in our Mr. Maple Friends group or subscribe to our YouTube channel, might not have heard of or might not be going after as hard. And after they hear them from you, I'm sure they'll be going after them. We're down to your number 2 Japanese maple. What do you have at your number 2?
Catalina Yatsubusa. Unique green color, leaf structure different, just in a smaller plant, which most people can manage to put in their yard. It takes a long time, like the Makawas, so it's an interesting one, and I don't see many people producing it. It's really being shared and sold here a lot more than any place that I've seen, so I think it's just a good plant.
Yeah, that Catalina Yatabusa, as the summer comes on, you even get some variegation in the leaf itself, that tightly layering habit like a Makawa Yatabusa. I mean, being a variegated Makawa is pretty awesome, but the texture that thing gives in the spring, it's outrageous. It just has this unique Makawa-like feel to it, but you tell that it's its own plant, and it's just so tight and dense. It's special in its own right.
The Yatsubusa, it just seems to do better in the South. It doesn't. I'd say it's an HTK, hard to kill type plant because it just has that unique structure like Makawa, and I don't think enough people know about it. I think it should be one that everybody should have in their garden. And like I said, it's not going to get really large, is it?
No, it stays really dense and small. Guys, we're all the way down to Richard Bomar's number 1 Japanese maple. I know what this is because I've known Richard for years. His favorite Japanese maple. Richard, go ahead and tell everybody.
What is it? Mr. Makawa Yatsubusa.
We're talking here to Mr. Makawa. He's never seen a Makawa Yatsubusa he didn't like. We always joke because we would go to nurseries and Richard would be leaving with a Makawa Yatsubusa and would say, Richard, you already got like 15 of those things. Do you need another one? He's like, it just had a good form. It's like every Makawa has a really good form. So what do you like about Makawa Yatabusa, Mr. Makawa?
It is hard to beat those just because it's like a snowflake. Every Makawa has a different shape, has a different size. The color comes out different on each one. You can take seedlings that you actually grow on your own Makawa, plant them, and they're, for the most part, you get quite a few that'll come up and have different variations. And I think there's a lot of variations in Makawa. When you say just Makawa Yatsubusa, there's really so many different forms. I think, how many did you think you identified over the years?
Well, there's Mr. Miyagi, Ladybug, Nemo, Mayday, Japanese Princess, Shinshin Yatafusa. I mean, I could keep going. That's just the ones that aren't variegated. There's Kryptonite, the Catalina Yatabusa, Lily Pad. There's Snow Kitten. I mean, I'm at 10 right there, and there's Bazinga. I mean, I could probably keep throwing out more of these. But the thing is that each one has a slightly different form. Tattoo, I mean, that's in that Makawa-like family.
Tom Thumb.
Tom Thumb, that's in this Makawa-like family. And what's not to like about a Makawa Yatabusa?
Yeah, the layering, the color changes over the time from spring to fall. The growth, it's like one day you have your plant that's only like a foot that you bought, and then, you know, in a few years it's like 3 to 5 feet, and it's always a manageable size. It's not like the 15-foot macawa that you have in your uncle's garden.
What about the one we now have at Buckholtz Farm? The
Oh,
biggest
yes.
macawa in the world.
Yes, I know. That is a monster.
I still see that thing today, and I walk by it and I'm like, that is the most beautiful plant. And I think to myself, I guess I technically own that plant. It seems so weird though, because, you know, it's in Oregon, it's Buckholtz Farm, but it's like, that macawa's mine now. So it's starting to come to realization a little bit.
And all the seeds that are on that tree and all the possibilities that you have if you find a new cultivar, one that's like a dark red for the whole year. So
think of the possibilities.
Yes.
We collected more macawa seed this past year than Talon Buckholtz has ever collected before at Buckholtz Nursery. We also have 7,000 macawa seedlings we're evaluating right now at the Buckholtz Farm.
I'm excited.
Going through, looking through, seeing what's going on, seeing if there's anything cool, neat variations. We got variegated forms. We've got all different types, yellow variegated, pink variegated, you name it. We've got a ton of macawas that we're gonna look at and see, are these hardy? Do these traits hold up? And is this something that should be in the nursery trade? So there, Mr. Macawa, the world is opening on the macawa world, because we love that. And with that giant tree and all the macawas Talon Buckholtz has planted around the farm, we got seed galore out there.
I know, it's just, it's like going to a shrine when you go to Buckholtz Nursery and just all the different plants they have there. We're so lucky to have you purchased that nursery to keep everything going and not have it turn into, you know, another set of apartments for people. So I'm sorry about that, but that's the way I feel about it.
Well, we've been blessed from, you know, 2011 when we were buying a rootstock and couldn't afford it, and you loaned us $1,000 to last year completing that process of purchasing Buckholtz Nursery. And you've been a big part of that, Richard. And
I appreciate that.
We can't thank you enough for helping us out when we were small and trying to figure out how to get everything going. Y'all, that's Richard Bomar's top 5 Japanese maples. You may have met him today at the open house. He was actually shuttling people around on my golf cart, getting people back to their cars. If you see Richard Bomar out at one of our open houses, say hey, tell him you saw this top 5. He's a plant collector just like you are. So he's a tree geek. Jump in, start talking about some plants, and you might find out some of the other trees he likes. Take care, God bless, and have a great day.